Hi everyone and welcome back. So we are going to do a small boot camp. We are going to write 10 JavaScript application using plain vanilla JavaScript. So these are like 10 vanilla JavaScript applications we are going to build, and we are going to use Scrimba, where you can create a new scrim. Just a platform where you can play with the HTML JavaScript. And here we have access to JavaScript, CSS and HTML, and we are going to have fun with the different applications like food delivery platform, small uh, cart platform, small movies app using vanilla JavaScript and HTML. That talks more about the basic JavaScript and HTML concepts. It doesn't talks about too much styling and too much use of CSS and CSS concepts. We are focusing more first on building the dynamic web application using JavaScript and simple HTML. So let's get started. This series contains, I think, 8 to 9 different applications, small applications that talks about more about HTML forms and small tiny applications using JavaScript and HTML like movie app, cart app, to do app. And I think I have created a good number of applications that are really helpful to understand the concept of HTML DOM and the basic concepts of JavaScript functions, object, arrays, array prototype functions, string functions, and all these functions. So let's get started with that. Now let's talk about some more examples, because here we are still working with the DOM, and a couple of more examples how we are doing DOM manipulations, how we are making API calls and all. So we can just do a simple example of guessing the number and checking if whatever you have guessed is the same as the random number which I was using. So here we are using little bit of JavaScript, but not that much, because JavaScript is really very minimal. Here we have simple. Now let's talk about some more examples, because here we are still working with the DOM, and a couple of more examples how we are doing DOM manipulations, how we are making API calls and all. So we can just do a simple example of guessing the number and checking if whatever you have guessed is the same as the random number which I was using. So here we are using little bit of JavaScript, but not that much, because JavaScript is really very minimal. Here we have simple input type text field where we are going to enter the guess number, and we have this simple button. Okay, when you click on to this button, I'm going to create a random number, and I'm going to compare this random number with the number which you have entered in the input text field. If both are same, you will say okay, you have won the lottery, right? Because you guess the number right, which this JavaScript math.random is going to generate. So this is the way to generate a math.random number of in between, I think, 0 to 100, 1 to 100, and we have input type text field. So we get the input DOM node, we got the submit button, and we got the message. Okay, so we got, this is simply way all these three different nodes has their ID: guess, input, submit, guess, and the message. So we can just do submit guess dot add event listener, and we have a click event listener attached to it. So whenever you click on to the submit guess, we are going to we are going to generate a random number, and that random number we are going to compare with the value which you have entered. If though both are equals, that means you are the winner and you will get the lottery ticket and you are now a billionaire. Okay, so we have to parse int is JavaScript method to convert a string into a number. So let's say if a number is inside a single quotes, you can convert it because it's parsable. You cannot convert hello world to a number. It will become not a number, NaN. So here we are checking guess equal to random number. If it is number same, then you did it right. We are just celebrating it. If it is, and then we just check the message dot style dot color. We can just change the color. We can just disable the input text field. When you have won the award, right, we can just disable the guess input dot disable dot equal to disabled equal to true. So because this is an input property, button property, so node property, so button dot disabled, button dot some attribute like button dot style dot color, button dot disabled, button dot name, button dot id. These are some attributes you can directly access using button HTML node. And if it is not, if it is less, we will just show the red color and we will just disable it. We will still disable it. I don't think we should disable if the condition is not met, so we'll remove that line. Try again with lower number if you are trying, if your match is not being met. I think we are missing equals at line 16, at 20 and 24. So let's add that equals here, because we are assigning the text content which is going to be displayed. And here what we are doing is message. You need to reload the page, so and rerun this. Try again, man. Okay, so and it is disabling it, so I think we are doing something wrong. We don't need to disable in the else if case. Guess input dot disable line number 23. Guess input submit guess dot disabled equal to true only if you got successful. So here disabled, we need to remove it. Now you can just check it. I mean, you need to refresh it so that the changes gets applied. Now pass any random number and try to see if it is giving you the success. Okay, let's try our luck again. 1 2 1, it's a very big number. 12. I don't think we can get some. So what I will do is I will change this random number and we'll generate the random number in between 1 to 10. Okay, now let's try this. Okay, you did it. That's it. So this is how random number generator, and this is how we are playing with the DOM nodes, attaching the click event, parsing the input value content, and then updating the message property with the text content, disabling the button, disabling the input text field if there is a success, all those things. So this is a simple input number game. Let's play with a couple of more examples in the same page, and I'm going to share all these Scrimba links so you can also play with this. Toggle message. Toggle message is nothing but when you click onto the button, it should show and hide the text content displayed in the p tag. So it's nothing but you got the IDs, toggle button and the hide message. So when you click onto this, you can you can toggle this property, display block on display hide, whatever is being shown in the hidden message. So if hidden message dot style dot display equal to block or empty. If it is none or empty, that means we need to display block, because it's toggle means whatever is there, if it is 1, make it 0. If it is 0, make it 1. So if the display property is none, then make it display property block. If display property is block, then make the display property none. So that is what we are doing in the toggle. Hidden message dot style dot display equal to none. So it is just like just toggle the display property on the button click. So here we are doing, we can see it is toggling and disappearing, appearing, disappearing, appearing. So that is simply I was going to show the how we are attaching the DOM event and how we are playing with this display property. I mean, the div is still there, we are just hiding the node. Let's say now we are going to create a simple to-do app. Input type text, ID of that input type text is a task input. So these are the simple examples, and in even this to-do app is also simple. We have just input text field and ULLI to display all the input text field you are adding, and there is a delete button for each and every task. So there is a add task, there is a button after the input text field, and there is a ULLI we have. Inside a UL node, we are going to create these nodes, li nodes dynamically. Let's say I'm adding a new to-do task. So I will just do document.create element and then append that element to this UL node. So we will add this code in the bottom. We can just do a first get all these 3 nodes, task input, add button and the task list. We can do it simply using document.get element by ID, task input, document.get element by ID button, document.get element by id task list, and then we attach a click event onto the button. So we did add button dot add event listener. First of all, get the value which has been entered in the task input. So we can just do task input equal to event dot target dot value, or text input dot text content dot text input dot text content dot value dot to lowercase or something. If it is not there, that means the click event won't do anything until unless you haven't entered any to do text. There is no point of doing clicking on to add task, right? It should not do anything. We should return. So in JavaScript, return means you are executing some code block, and if you are returning from there, that means I don't want to execute the rest of the instructions. It's a simple, it's common everywhere in all programming. And here, if the input text dot trim is not equal to empty quotes or just empty spaces, there is some text has been added, then we will go to the else block and we will create the new element li, right? And how we can create dynamically HTML elements, document dot create element li is the tag name, and then node dot text content equal to whatever user has entered in the input text field. This is input text. This will become the content of that li node, and then here if that has been added, now we can also add a simple button in the li. Remove button equal to create element button, and then we will add this button to the list item. So remove button dot text content equal to remove, I mean what should be the display or what should be the value on the button, and remove button dot add event listener. When you remove this, when you click on to this remove button in the li list node, it will just remove this particular value text input from, I mean we already have a task list, right? Task list dot remove child. That particular child you remove from the list of tasks. So that is at line 45. So there is a node, and you can, I mean in the HTML DOM APIs, you can do add element, remove element, or add child or remove child. Remove child means there is a child and you can remove it. There is a child, you can add it. So line 63, let's say everything is good. So what we can do is task input dot list item dot append child. We are adding a remove button, and then that remove button and the text we are adding to the task list, which is a UL tag, right? And then append child list item, and whatever is entered in the input text field, reset that to the empty. So append child is important, remove child is also important. There is a remove button we are adding, and we also added an event listener click event. So whenever you click on to the remove button, we are removing that element, we are removing that list item from the task list, I mean the main list. So here we entered, I will reload this page, and we added something. Okay, you can see. So this li node contains the text which I was talking about, list item, right? List item document.get element by li, and it has a input text content, and also we have added the remove button in the list item dot append child, line number 63. There we have added a button node also in the list, and then this list item we have added on the task list. I mean we have added this li inside a ul. Okay, there is a ul. This is like a ordered list, unordered list. This is an ordered list, and we keep adding the elements. Hello task 01, add task, hello task 02, add task, and you can click on to this button. So this button will remove the element from the task list. So when you click on to remove, we have already have this add event listener click onto the remove button, that is removing that element from the task list. So here when I click on to this is gone, and that is gone. So this is all, these are all these things which we are talking about is all about DOM and how we deal with the DOM manipulation. So we do a click event on the add task, we get the input value which has been added in the to do text, we are checking if it is not empty, then we created a new node, brand new node li, put the text content of the li node with the value which user has entered in the text field, created a button also dynamically in the JavaScript code using document.create element, added that button in the list item, and then finally list item we have added inside a ul, I mean the major list, which is task list. So this is a fun This is really fun doing the vanilla JavaScript after a long time, because I'm also busy with these framework, Angular, React and all. I'm doing a lot of these things for this bootcamp. So this is all about how we deal with the DOM events and all. Now, hi everyone and welcome back. So in the last video we talked about a simple blog API, and we were using fetch APIs to fetch the list of blogs and to save the new blogs. So fetch is actually API available on the window object, and window.fetch you can access the fetch to create, insert, update, delete on the APIs. So apart from fetch, what is the legacy way of doing it? I mean, earlier we were using XHR request, XML HTTP request, and using XHR we were sending the request, or we were sending the request with a get, put, post, all these different methods. So whatever you are able to do with the fetch, we were doing it using XML HTTP request. So you can see here window.fetch is available. Similarly, there is another thing is a window.xml HTTP request that we can use to send the request to the API server. And there is just different ways of doing it. Either you can use a fetch or you can use XML HTTP request. Let's say this is an API. What this API does is when you hit this API, it is going to give you the random activity message like go, staggering, okay, enjoy your Sunday, or any random messages. So we are going to just hit this API on the click of button, and we are going to get this activity data and show it on the HTML. So this is a plain and simple thing we are going to do just to play with the XHR. I mean, you can do it with the fetch also. In the fetch we were doing the same, fetch API URL dot then we will get the response, serialize the response using .json method. Still it is a promise, so you can do a dot then to get the final message coming out of the API. So console.log data. So this is what you will get. So if you want to make an API call, you don't need to stick to XML HTTP request. You can just do a fetch URL and dot then and all those things. So dot then is a promise concept of JavaScript. We will learn and understand more about it. So there is a button with ID, and when you click onto that button, we are going to make an API call, and once that API call is made, we are going to get the message, and that message we are going to append to HTML DOM node. So this is simple HTML. So here we are getting a random message, okay, and when you click onto this, there is a p tag also we can have in the HTML that is going to render the message. So here document.get element by ID, when you click onto this button, so there is a get message is an ID. When you click onto that, we can just do add event listener, and add event listener we are doing a click event, and then there is a function. So what this function will do is we are going to write that function here. So using this function we are going to use first fetch. So let's say if you are doing a fetch, so you can simply do fetch URL, and we can do a simply promise a dot then it will give you the data. You can serialize the response. You can see this fetch is returning a promise, and to resolve, to extract the data from the promise, you have to do dot then. That is nothing but a JavaScript concept, okay, because this is something which is going to take time, because you are making API call to the remote server. It's not like it will give you the right away. So it's asynchronous operation. Asynchronous means which takes time, which doesn't give you the reply as instantly. And here we will get the data, and that data we are going to set on particular node. So let's say we have an HTML p tag here. On the p tag we want to set the message, so we can use the p tag with particular ID, and we can do document.get element by ID activity dot inner HTML or text content dot text content we can just set equal to data dot activity. Simple. So this is a random magic we are doing, and when you click onto this button, we are going to make the API call, and we are going to play simply with this, and document dot body. You can also set some class like, okay, class list dot add. So this is like if you want to add a particular class to body, then there is already a class list of class. You can just add a new class fun when you do this. So you can also do some effect when the API call is done. Here you can see I just need to reload this, I guess, because sometimes it doesn't appear properly. And here, okay, it is coming up. There is some issue with HTML. I didn't close the button tag. That's why the message is also coming in the button only. Now you can see it's giving us the random message. So this is nothing but we are doing the same fetch. You fetch, you on the button click. So on the button click, we are making a fetch API, getting the data and setting the text content to a HTML DOM node. And we are doing simple fun document.body.class element.remove. So when the API is being made, we can remove the class. When the API is successful, then we can add that class. And we can just set button. Let's say we can just set some styling onto the button, border radius, background color, width, and all. And on this fun class, which we are going to add to the body, we can just set background color CCC, gray color. So when you click onto this gray color will add and remove. You can see there is a flicker just to show you that this class list can be added and removed from body when the API is being made. So this is what the fetch is. We are using fetch because fetch is a global available on the window object, so you don't need to do window.fetch. You can just directly do fetch. We can also do these things with the Ajax, asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Ajax is just nothing but the vanilla way. This is the real way of doing a API call in earlier back in those days. Now we have the fetch and we just simply use fetch, but what it really is, let's talk about that. So there is a button and add event listener. When there is a click onto that button, we wanted to make an API call, and that API call is nothing but we are doing XHR request, right? XHR is nothing but XML HTTP request. All the API call which are being triggered from the client are nothing but XHR or fetch. Okay, we can see that in the Chrome dev console also. On the network tab, we always select XHR and the fetch. Okay, here when you click onto this button, what we want to do is we wanted to execute a function. So this is the event handler, make Ajax request, and then you can define this make Ajax request function make Ajax request. And this Ajax request is nothing but going to make an API call. And here we are using this vanilla XML HTTP request. Let HTTP request equal to new XML HTTP request equal to new XML HTTP request object. Okay, now you can just do set HTTP request dot. If there is no HTTP request, I mean every browser contains this global window object. In earlier version of Internet Explorer, that is gone now, so we don't need to talk about it. But HTTP request will always be available. If not, then obviously something wrong with the browser. Use this Chrome and the Firefox or Safari browser. Don't use any old legacy browser. We don't support that now. So if HTTP request object exists, then we can just do on ready state change. So we have the API server where we are going to trigger. So we need to, once the API server is ready to respond, then this handler will be used. Ready state dot open. This is okay. We are sending a get call to this resource, and we are looking for text.html. Okay, and then HTTP request dot send. So whatever we were writing using fetch, all those things we are doing here. So on ready state change, that means is server has received a request and now it is ready to respond. So here we need to check the server state. Okay, server is ready to respond, and server status code which is returned from server is 200. Then we will start getting the data. So this handler line 13 to line 15 is the code we are writing when server is ready to respond, and we are getting the response back from server. So here we will check HTTP request.status equal to 200. Then we are good. We can just say alert. Okay, we got the data. HTTP request dot response text. Okay, otherwise if we didn't get it, then we can just say alert, something wrong happened with the API call which you have triggered. So we are doing two checks here. Line 15, HTTP request dot ready state. First of all, server should be ready to send the request response. Second thing is HTTP status code is 200. That means we got a successful response from the server. If there is an error, obviously we will get an error. Right now here this so this is a step 1. Line number 8, getting the creating the object of XML HTTP request. Step number 2, checking the on ready state change. Step number 4 is opening the connection by defining the method and URL. Step number 4, sending the request. So when you send the request, when server is ready to handle the response, line number 18 will execute and we will check, okay, status code 200, get the response to the client. So this is the legacy way of making an API call using Ajax, asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Using this, I mean, let's say if there is a big page and you are clicking on some button, so we can use this Ajax call to click onto that button and re-render or update the particular portion of the page. We don't need to reload the page once this API response is received. So here we are checking the response status code is 200. That means success. You got the data. And ready state change is here. Now you can see when I click onto this, there is an API call being made, right? This is the API call HTTP get to this URL. That is not found. I mean, that's really not there. We can hit some JSON placeholder APIs like fake JSON API, like this URL you can hit, and we can just replace that here in the API.send. This here test.html, replace it with the some mock APIs, reload this browser so we can see the updated code. And here when you click onto this, we are making an API call. Okay, we still need to reload this. Sometimes the code doesn't refresh right away. So I rerun this and now I will try again. And you can see I got the response back. So I will check this now and you can see this is the response, the JSON response we are receiving from this API. And here in the network tab, you can see there are two important things, fetch and XHRs, because there are two different ways in which your front end can make a request using fetch or XHR. This is being used by fetch or XHR. This is being used by fetch, sorry, XHR. So XML HTTP request it is using and it is getting the response back, and in the alert we are showing that, and you can see it is getting the status code 200 on line number 3, status code 200 HTTP get, and this is the URL. Okay, everything goes good. We got the response. So this is just another way of making the API call and getting the response back. Okay, that's all about this video. Hi everyone and welcome back. Welcome to the HTML, JavaScript, CSS Bootcamp, and here we are playing with some games, some small tiny applications built with HTML DOM, JavaScript and CSS. So in this video we are going to play with another simple example. So we are going to simple account. So we are creating tiny small applications in these videos. So here we are going to play with simple counter application. Counter app is nothing but, okay, we are just going to play with the DOM events and set some variables, increase and decrease the values. So this is a simple button ID, increment button, and then there is, let's say, and when you do on click onto that, we can just execute one method, or based on the increment button ID we can just add a DOM event. So there is an increment button and we can have another button, let's say decrement, save button, and it is save button. So it is just a simple game of how we attach the DOM events to the HTML buttons. So DOM events can be attached to any HTML node, div, p tag, button tag. You can attach a DOM events on the body, on load, on the button click event, on the whole document window. You can see mouse over, mouse move down, mouse move up, or on the input text field you can do on input, on change, on key up, on click, right? So and there is a simple two buttons, and then there is a p tag where we are going to populate some content. Okay, so there is increment button and then there is a save button and there is a p tag, all has an ID. So how can we access these nodes? Using these IDs, document.get element by ID will give you these respective buttons, and then this is the p tag. Okay, and then there is a, this is how we attach the DOM events. There are many ways. Either you do a document.get element by id dot add event listener, or when you do on click on the button, you can just define a function name like function save or function increment and define that in your JavaScript. So this save will be called when you click onto that button, and you need to define this method in the HTML on click of increment, on click on the save button. So let's say count is 0. And when you are doing a save and increment, we are just going to play with this. So we are getting the counter element. So here save element, document.get element by id, document.get element by id, save button, increment button, and save element. And we are providing the unique IDs, so we are good. We know how to capture the values. Okay. So count element, and here we got the count element, save element, and count is initialized with initially 0. So line number 4, this is how you declare a variable in JavaScript. I mean, I will talk about the JavaScript fundamentals in the future videos, but as you know, we are doing a DOM, so we need some variables, we need some initializer. So line number 4, I said count 0. Now I can play with the count value because count is global. I can on the save button, like on the increment, I will just increase the value of the count to count plus 1. So, and then on the save button, I can just update the text content to whatever the values are there, right? So there are two buttons, save button and increment button. So on the increment button, I'm doing if you can see on the increment button, I'm just increasing the counter and text content with the count. So when you click on to this text content will have the value of count, which is getting increased 1 by 1. And when you click on save, I'm just saving the value, what was the last counter value. So in the counter count, whatever the count value is, that and underscore. So it will just keep appending that value. So save is just going to save the value whenever you want to save button, and it will reset the counter with 0. Okay, so let's see this. I just need to reload this, so this NaN will go away, and save button, you can see 5, it will save it. So save button is nothing but whatever the counter value is, it will save it and it will reset it to 0. So it works simply like this: increment, save, increment, save, increment, increase, save, and it will reset this. Okay, so these are the two, just an example of how we can play with the simple variable, and how we can update the text content on the fly on the click of the button. Save button, increment button has an on click event. The functions are defined in JavaScript. So this is how we create the functions in JavaScript, and this is how we call the functions in the JavaScript. On click equal to function name, and we are calling that function here. On click equal to save, we are calling that function when somebody clicks on the button, and save function is defined in index.js, and increment function is defined in index.js. So, and whenever you wanted to update the DOM node value like p tag, this is the p tag where we are showing when you are saving something, that value is getting updated here. Okay, now next examples, let's play with the next examples. We are using Scrimba, and it's easy to play with the different examples by just putting different snippets. I will soon I will share the GitHub repository also, where I will attach all these links. I will combine all these things inside a single playlist where you can look at. Now we are going to build a simple blog app. Okay, and it is going to use the API calls also. So till now we are just doing a DOM manipulation. What if we want to create a simple form? When you click on submit, we want to make an API call and save that data to the API. API we are not making, we are going to use existing placeholder API, JSON placeholder APIs. So how do we do that? First of all, how can we make API call from the JavaScript code? Okay, that's a good question. So in JavaScript, there is something called AJAX, asynchronous JavaScript and XML, that we will talk about. But you might have heard about fetch APIs also. That also I will talk about. These are the two important ways using which you will make API calls to the external interface. Because if you thought about client side, it's all static until unless you don't fetch the data from server. So there is always, in every architecture, there is a client side, there is a server side. Server side has some data which is persisting your data. Let's say I want a list of users. I will initially fetch the data from the APIs. Then I create a nice form, username, password, and first name, last name, email. Save it. I will send the data to the APIs using to the server will save it. So there is always these basic architecture, two-tier architecture, where there is a client is the browser, server is your API. Okay, like scrimba.com/API. If you are really very beginner, then you might be hearing this name first, API, and we will look into this more. But API is nothing but, you can understand, some data provider which is giving you some information, and it is also allowing you to save, fetch, delete, update all the information. So there is a user record. You can update, you can delete, you can create new user, you can update user, you can delete user, you can fetch the list of users. And there is an HTML form, plain vanilla JavaScript form, that is displaying you all the list of users, and then also giving you a button to update, delete, create new user. It's like a end-to-end front-end back-end application, right? Back-end is there, somebody created a API and you are playing with that. So similarly, we are going to do a simple blog application where we have to input text field, name and title, and then there is a submit button or save button in the HTML form. When you click onto this, I'm going to do two things. Either I can use a fetch to save this information. I mean, fetch is nothing but a API. Fetch is a object, or you can say interface, available on the window object, window.fetch, that you can use to make an API call to save the information to the server, you can say. Or you can use Ajax, asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Ajax is just a way to interface your client side static HTML or whatever the code you are writing in the client side to your server, to the APIs, RESTful APIs. So this is the Ajax request. So there are two different ways to make or save your data. Let's call it is two different ways to save your data, using fetch API or using XML HTTP request. So in fetch, you just provide a URL, then you just do a get, put, post, delete to the API URL. So we are going to access the blog APIs. Let's say there is already a blog APIs created by someone. We are just consuming it. We can fetch the list of blogs. You can create a new blogs, fetch the list of blogs. Okay. And then just display the list of blogs on the UI. So here we are going to build this tiny simple form with the name and the title and save button. When you click on save, get this name and title information and take this data to the API, to the remote server, where there is a API URL. To that you will submit this information. So that API or that server, remote server, will save this and make this data available to you. So there is a simple tiny form. We can write that form in just an HTML. So there is a label, input type text. So there is ID, and so there are two IDs. You can see there is a text area, there is input type text, and I have provided IDs like post title, post title, and post description. I will just rename the IDs. And there is a blog list. There is an ID blog list where I'm going to render all the list of blogs. And this is just a blog app. Right, we have this blog app where we have a title and body, which is a description. So we will just try to put some styling also to make it look a little nicer. So it's good that we have a simple nice header. So we will just put a new bar, and inside this new we have just a simple tiny header blog app. Okay, and now we can just style it. Name is not a class, name is a tag name, so we need to remove a dot from there. Here we are just setting a background color CCC and text align center, display flags, position fixed, align item center, width is 100% because you can cover the horizontal full width, right? And why there is a background color not coming up? Because we have to fix our CSS. So text align center, align item center. Okay, the name is a tag and we cannot use this now. This really works. So blog app. So inside new bar, there is h1 tag, h3 tag, right? So what I'm doing, new arrow h3, that means this style will be applied to immediate h3 tag, which is just after new tag. And I'm saying margin auto. That means this blog text will be displayed in the horizontal, I mean it will have a same margin from left and right, so it automatically will be centered. So margin 0 auto is some special CSS property that is used to style an element inside another element horizontally in the center. So we can add some styling, and this is the blog list where we are going to fetch all the list of blogs, and we are going to render in the blog list ID. Okay, so we can just style something on the form, because currently the form is there but it is hidden behind the header. So we can set some margin padding to the form, because this new bar has a position fixed. So this is like a stick to the top, and whatever is coming in the bottom, that will be hidden inside this. So this is margin top. We can set some margin on this form, so we can see the title and body, and then there is a button which we need to add. So here we also have button, so we just can add the padding and 10 pixel, and font size, font family, and the width is 100%. Cursor is pointer, and then we will just reload this. I think we don't have an input type button, so let's add a button after the form so we can see the form, because that is the button. Using on click of that, we are going to make a API call and save the information from the title and body. We can also add a margin top for this button, so there is a gap between body and button. We can set some ID on the button also, so we can just set display grid, or we can just do a display flex, the flex direction column. So I will talk about these stylings which we are setting here. It's nothing but it's just a way of arranging the nodes inside a container, inside a flex container or a grid container. These are nothing but a simple styles. Either you arrange them inside a horizontal or a vertical. Okay, so here we can just add some more padding to it. Now this is our simple form. Let's not beautify it, because I'm talking about lots of things which I haven't discussed yet, like the flex, grid, margin padding, CSS positions, and all those things. We will talk about them later. So for now, let's take a simple working setup of form. And now this form has a 3 nodes, like title, body, and the button. So I have a 3 different IDs, and based on the ID, post title, post body, and then there is a form which is a new post, right? There is a form also has an ID, new post, and then there is a button on which we are doing a click. So we can what we can do is, here we got all these nodes, right? Title input, body input, and the form. So we can just write a simple function, render all posts. How we are rendering? First of all, how we are getting the data? So we have to get the data from API call using fetch. So we are just going to build a simple HTML text. I is 0, I is less than post array dot length. Let's say we have the array, because in JavaScript or every programming language, array is a basic data structure which contains element in and different index like 0, 1, 2, 3. So here we are just building that HTML equal to HTML plus some text nodes. So we are just trying to build the list of blogs with the title and the description, because blog has a title and the description. And how we can display that? Using dollar. That's a JavaScript part. Even if you don't understand it, then for now just skip it. But whenever there is a dynamic expression, we can put that inside a backticks at line number 13 and line number 17, and we can put dollar curly braces variable name dot title, because post is an object, and inside that we have title and the body, and this is not a post, it's a post array of I, right? And document dot get element by id dot inner HTML equal to HTML. So this we already know how to set the inner HTML content, right? And this is a render all the posts. Now we are going to do a fetch. So fetch is, so there are 2 different ways to send API call and get the data. There is a fetch API or there is a ajax. So let's talk about fetch. And there are lots of things I think you won't be able to understand right now, like what is this fetch I'm doing. Fetch is nothing but I know from where to get the list of blocks. So I just put fetch the URL, and then it's not going to give us the data just right away because it will take time. There is an API call, it will talk to the server api.scrimba.com, JSON placeholder, and posts. So it will take time. But once the data is there, we will just resolve it, and we will set post array equal to data.slice 0 to 5. We just need only 5 records from the huge list. Okay, so we are doing response data.slice. So now we should be getting the post array. So post array is initialized with empty, and now we are calling this to render all the posts. And this is post array of I. This is how we access the index of an array. There is an array of value 1 2 3 4 5, and this is where we are rendering all the blog posts, right? So this is how we are doing it. So we are doing a simple fetch. So we'll learn this part of how to fetch the data, how if there is a resource is given, how to do a get, because this is nothing but here we are trying to fetch the list of blogs. So what we are doing, we are using window.fetch API, fetch URL, and then we are waiting until this promise is resolved. So these are all mostly JavaScript concepts that we can revisit again. Then there is a form.add event listener, and I'm just doing a submit. So whenever there is a form submit is triggered, what we are going to do is we are going to trigger this function. And what this function will do is event.prevent default. First of all, prevent the form submission. So it should not reload the page. We are getting the title, like what is the title you have added and what is the body you have added. We need to get both the values. So title input dot value, const body equal to body input dot value. So we will get both the values. So we got both the values. Now we can just okay, we already got this data which contains the title and which contains the body. Now this data we need to send to the server. Okay, how we can send it? Similarly, we can just do a fetch. So here we are going to create a options which contains a method equal to post, and we have body. Inside body we are going to send data. So for now you can understand something like this. There is an API server which gives you the list of data, also allows you to create the record, like giving you the blog list, and also allowing you to create the blog. So that is what we are doing here. Inside options we are just setting the method. Okay, I'm posting, I'm creating a new blog. Earlier I was just fetching this, so I'm just setting the parameters which I need to submit to the server to get the data. So basic options, and then I'm just doing a fetch options. I can pass all these options which I have, like the URL and the options. So this is the URL and this is the option, and again it's going to be a promise. I mean, it's an API call. You are trying to save something to the server which is at the remote. So we need to wait until that request is completed. Okay, once that is completed, you can just, it will return you the post, and then you can update that post with the new post.unsift. Just add that newly added post on the top of the array, and that's really fun. What I'm doing here is we have the existing list of post, and I'm doing this array method unsift. Unsift will add that element on top of everything. Let's say there is an array which contains the value 1 2 3 4, unsift 7, so 7 gets added on top of as a first index, and text input dot value 0, body input dot value is empty curly braces. So everything is sorted now, and now when you try to submit the title and body, now it should also allow you to create the new blog, and once the blog is saved, it will reset both the input fields, and it should be able to make the API call. Okay, first of all we need to, I think, reload this page so that our changes gets reflected. And here I'm doing JSON is not defined, response.json dot stringify, I guess. Okay, line number 41, it's a json.stringify. This is the method. I will just send this data again. Save it, and you can see now we are able to get this data. That means it's really being saved to the remote API. Save it. That's it. So it's nothing but a small demo of how your client is going to get the data from the server. And there are lots of things we are doing which you might not be able to understand right now, but obviously once we start the JavaScript, you will learn how you can make API call. What is this fetch APIs which we are using at the client side? Fetch is actually the API available on the window object that you can use to make a API call. API call is nothing but there is a remote server which is giving you the list of blogs. I need to call that API to get the blog. I need to call, and these are different methods: HTTP get, put, post, delete. So when we talk about the APIs in JavaScript, we will talk about what are these HTTP methods. Okay, if you're not able to understand, forget it. Just read the syntax and try. Hi everyone, and welcome back. Welcome to my another video. And in the last 20 videos, I will say what all we have done is we have done the basics of HTML, and then recently we have covered basics of JavaScript. So if you are watching my videos, then you already got the basic understanding of the HTML, how to build the applications with simple HTML and DOM APIs. And then we also have covered the basic JavaScript, which is how to create a functions, object functions, how to access the properties, what are the arrays, how to loop them, string, array, prototype methods and all. That's enough for getting started and building a small applications so that you can learn more, because here we are going to do learn by doing. So in this video, what we are going to do, we are going to create a simple form. So we will just create a simple form where user will enter, and user will give a consent. It can be simple a user consent form where user enters the email or username and says, okay, yes, I agree with your terms and conditions. It's like terms and condition form. When you submit, then we will say, okay, we will show different messages that your data is being submitted to the server. And now, yes, you have successfully submitted the request, and now you agree to the terms and conditions or a cookie consent form, something like this. So we are going to play with all these concepts of JavaScript and CSS. So we are going to first show this in a modal pop-up. Okay, so we are going to show this as a modal pop-up, which we can show and hide, because if there is a pop-up, then we should be able to show and hide. So we will play with the styles, and here we are going to show this model after some delay. So there is a landing page displayed, and then after some time we will show this model pop-up. So we are going to use set timeout for all those things. Okay, and then we will talk about form submission, that is HTML part, and how to get the form data using form API. Okay, and then toggling the classes, toggling class and toggling classes, and you can say how we handle the form submission, right? All those things we are going to explore. So all these concepts are also declared here. Set timeout. This is a timer API from JavaScript web API. This is how you can access the particular style of an element. We are accessing the HTML forms, and this is how form data.get attribute name, like name. This is how you will get the form values. Then prevent default for stopping the propagation. Then row reverse, toggling the classes, and disable attribute to disable the form. Let's get started. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a simple form for this in our index.html. First of all, we are going to create a simple model. Okay, so I will start with this. So we are going to create a div, and here we can specify class model. Okay, why this is going in uppercase? Class model in ID. ID, we can just say model. Inside this, this is same as the model pop-up. Okay, so inside this we are going to put everything, all the children's of this tag is going to be the big model pop-up. Okay, so here we will have a close button on the top right corner to close the model pop-up, right? Division block, model close, and this is the button. And then we are going to have a model inner content, what is inside the model. So this is how we can divide the divs. So we can just segregate, okay, this is the model body, model header, model footer. So I will say model inner. Okay, ID also, you can also use the same IDs, so we know what we are talking. This is the closing of the div, so this is the model inner, and inside that you will just put some content like, okay, h3 user consent form, where you need to consent before we start accessing your data. And after that you can just put complete information in the p tag, okay, what we are talking here, what all information we are going to access. So we can say user consent form to get user permission to save and store user data. So we are taking just a permission from the user that can we access your data or not. And after that we can have a simple form where we can also ask user to provide your email or username, because this is the data which we are asking from the user. So it can be simply consent form, it's an ID, it's a consent form. Okay, and inside the ID you will have input text fields, input type, first name, last name, something like. So we have already know how to create a simple form elements, input type text, input type email, and then we have two buttons. So in the model we have given two buttons in the bottom. So this is simple HTML. I'm just adding this, and now we will start styling this. Currently if you see, it doesn't look good, simply form, right? Now we have to design a nice and simple model pop-up that will be displayed after some time. So we will be using the timer APIs for that, and we are already using this JavaScript file. So first let's include some styling in CSS. So we are already have this index.css. Let's start adding some styling for our components. So here I will say HTML body margin padding. We can also add a font family, let's say Roboto. If we are using a Roboto font family, then we also need to include external style sheet, because how are you going to get this font? So this is how I will get the font. So these are like Google fonts, you can download from there, and this will add this Roboto font family for your application. Now if you can see, after I have added this font family, and without this font, let's say what you can see, change, Roboto fonts applied, right? And let's style all the elements. H1 is the heading, so H1 font size, let's say 48 pixel. Line height, this is the height of the text which you are writing. And then font weight, we are going to give weight to the font so that it can be bold properly, 900. And then H2, because we have H2 text, so let's say just we can add some margin top, 0. Now we need to work on this HTML, like, okay, there is an H3 tag, so let's do for the H3, not for the H2. And we have this button and all those things, so we need to style them properly so that they can be visualized accordingly. Now there is a p tag also, I can see. So inside p tag we are just saying okay, the font size and line height. So all those things can be applied. Now p tag is now showing a proper line height and a font size. h3 tag font size also applied, margin top 0. And we have, so now we need to style the model. And how we can style the model? We have a model class. So I will start applying the model class, or you can also use the ID. You can just put a hash here. Let's put for the class now. So it currently it is display none. If I just do display none, it will make your page empty. If you just do display block, it will show this. So display none means I can just use this class property to show and hide the model pop-up. And model pop-up is something which will come on top of the content. So I will just say position fixed. Okay, and we can just say right 0. So right 0, bottom 0, top 0. So it is just to fix the model pop-up. If I just say display block, how it looks like, you can see it is a fixed. From the top right it has a 0, from the left it has 0. This is how your model pop-up CSS looks like, right? Display position is fixed. Now we can also set some height and width, border radius also, like okay, I want to give some border radius, height and width. Now this because margin is auto, so if you just don't do the margin auto, it will be aligned in the left. When you do margin auto and put a fixed width, it will try to take it come inside in the center of the horizontal width. Margin auto means it will take the same margin from the left and right for the remaining space after consuming this 350 pixels. So this is a 350 pixel, left and right it is getting the same space. And then there is a border radius. You can also just do a background color. Let's see if I do background color, and this is now having some background color. And we also need to put a text color, like what should be the color of the text which you are writing. Okay, that's visible now. We can also add a box shadow because this model pop-up is going to become on top of the content. You can see we can add box shadow. So there is some shadow added now. So this is the styling of the model. Now it is, first of all, now this model pop-up is in center, right? If you just see this, this is what we want. Model pop-up should come inside the center because we had added a margin auto. That means left, right, it will take the same space. Height is 450 pixel, 420. Okay, now we can start styling the inner part of the model. Like model, there is a model button dot model inner. That's a class. So we can just set a model inner, some width like 290 pixel. And margin is 0 auto. That means it's going to be centered because obviously the text should not be attached to the borders of the model. So we can give us some fixed width to the model inner. So it will come. And then there is, I think, close model button, model close button. That also we can style. Model close button. So we can just say font size 22 pixel, font weight, bold, background color we can just say transparent, and color is, let's keep it white only. So that is a model close button. And model close button we are showing in the left. So we can just show it in the left or in the right. Okay, let's see how it looks like. This is the model close button. So when you click onto this, it should be able to hide this. So we can add a click listener and we can just show we can just set the display property of the model show and hide, right? I mean display none and display block. And we can also show this when the model close button hover and active, what should be the behavior when you hover this model close button. So these are the pseudo classes, right? Whenever you hover or whenever it is active, you can see now it is going to be change the color to the red. And when it is disabled, the color will be this, opacity will be this, and not allowed. And then there are two buttons, right? Model choice buttons that we have in the bottom. Let's model choice buttons, let's add a classes for them, I mean beautify them. Model choice buttons, and for these buttons we can add a margin top 10 pixel, padding 8 pixel and 16 pixel. So what does this mean? 8 pixel means the padding starts from top. If you just see this padding start from top, then right, then bottom, and then left. So 8 pixel means top and bottom, 16 pixel means left and right. Okay, then we have an input text field. Let's style them a little bit. So we can style the input tag. So we can just add a margin top 10 pixel, border 1 pixel, solid. We can add some color. So that is about the buttons, input text field. Then we can also add a padding. What happened to this? Okay, there is one more 0 left. Padding is 10 pixel, and we can say width. Width is 100%, just cover the horizontal full width. So that is good. Okay, and then we can also add a border radius to make it look nice. Border radius, I can say 4 pixel. Okay, now these input text fields look nice. We can also set some buttons and all. And whenever the model, so this is our model pop-up. What will happen when model display property? So there is a model display. This is the class we can use to toggle model display none. So we can just set the color to something else. Model text. Height 140 pixel, line height 23 pixel, and margin bottom 0. So this is how our model pop-up looks like. I think we can still beautify these model buttons. I think these are model choice buttons, and there should be a class model button, right? Because they are not looking good right now. Model choice buttons. We can add some margin padding. Padding should make them wider. Now, okay, that's still better than what we were having earlier. So we have beautified input text field and this model pop-up. So I think this is what I wanted to achieve with this model pop-up. Now what we want to do is show this model pop-up in the body. You may have something else also. Let's say I just show the message h1. Hello, a message, simple hello world. Sorry for these typos. Hello world, right? So okay, what happened to this h1? So this hello world, and on top of that we are displaying this. Okay, let me just see if we can improve on couple of more things. So this is a model close button. Can we customize this a little bit so that this can be a little nicer? Model close button, what else we have added? So model close button, we have added a font size, border, background color, and some behavior. Okay, how it should look like. We can also set the display property, because model close button can go to the right, float right. Okay, now we are going to play with the JavaScript, because how we are going to do the dynamic, currently it's a static form, right? it's not closing, it's just statically open, right? So here we will start using DOM. So we always use DOM APIs for that. Const model document dot get element by ID, and you already know how to access the model pop-up. And here I can just play with this thing, set timeout, which I was talking. Like, let's say initially don't display it, but after some time you can set the model dot style dot display property, and I can say display inline. Initially we already know that display is a block, right? So here display property is none. I will just say display none, so now it's not showing right now. And in JavaScript what we are doing is, after set timeout, let's say after 1 second, just put the model pop-up, or maybe 2 seconds, and you can see the magic. After 2 seconds this model is getting shown up, right? Because we are setting the display property to inline. Okay, and there is a close button, so let's get the close button also. So when you click on the close button, we can add a event listener on this. Close button dot add event listener, and we are doing click. So when you do click, I want to change the display property, model dot style dot display equal to none. So this is the event listener on that button. Like whenever I click onto this, okay, I need to reload this. Sometimes the model pop-up, the events doesn't get registered, and after 2 seconds the model pop-up come and closed, right? This is the magic. Not magic, we are doing everything with a JavaScript. And now there is a content form, right? So we have a consent form. So consent form we can get using document.get element by ID. And there is a model text also there, which we want to change when the form is submitted. So this is the content form, and then there is a model text. Model text is the ID which we are going to update when anything happens with the model. So here this is the model text. I think on the p tag we can add this ID model text and model text. Let's see, because this is the dynamic message we wanted to put. So it will display it and close the model pop-up. Okay, now we can get the IDs of, we got the IDs of everything, right? Now we can submit the form in JavaScript. So how we do it is, we already got the consent form. So we can start writing consent form dot add event listener, and we are going to look for submit event. So when you submit the form, I'm going to access the form object, and here we are passing the event object. First we will stop the propagation of the form using e dot prevent default, and then const form equal to new form data. So this is just another way of accessing the form values, and here I need to pass the consent form, and using get method you can access the form values. So you might wonder how we can access the values which has been entered in the form. So let's say if I wanted to access full name, how will I do that? Consent form, like I already got the form object form.get, and I can pass the property, it's a full name. So here if you see inside this we have ID full name, ID email, name email. So you can pass that property and get the value from that input text field. And then once you submit the form, right, we can just play with this form, okay, inner text, and we can just say we are saving your data, please wait, something like this. Okay, so this is what happens when you submit the form. And then we can also do a set timeout, because we are going to play with this timer API just to show and hide things. And here we have a set timeout of 1500 millisecond, I mean it's 1.5 second. And we can say is document dot get element by ID upload text. So there can be another ID which we can have to show the custom messages. So here we can just say the same thing in a text, and okay, after some time we can say another message. Uploading information. I mean, you can show any kind of message. Here you can just do inner text, inner HTML also. If you have some custom images, you can show that and make it more lively. Okay, so this is after 15 seconds, and once you are done, what you can do is you can just change the complete body of the model. So there is a model and close button consent form model text. So we also have model inner, right? So set timeout once this is done. After 3 seconds, just play with this and document dot get element by ID model inner dot inner HTML. And you can just put some custom content inside this inner HTML. And inside this we can just put the whole div. You can simply say is thanks for sending your info. You can put anything, whatever you want. I will just try to reload this. After set timeout, we will see this. Enter your username, email, submit this. We need to send a proper email. Accept it. We are sending your data, uploading information. Thanks for sending your information. So you can see this dynamic behavior, and these messages can come with the images or whatever you want. It's just like I try to keep it simple for now, but here you can, instead of inner text, you can do a inner HTML and put some flashy images, some loading icon, some more content. So here I will talk about this again. Model displayed after 2 seconds. You can close this, but then you need to reload it again. Otherwise, you can also add a button in the HTML. Here you can see, let's say we can have a show model button. And when you do show model button dot add event listener, then just add this display property to block inline block show model button. So we just need to have one button which has an ID, so that we can add here. So class can be that, and then there is an ID. Okay, we are good now. Here we can just show the message show model. Okay, so by default it is showing the model. We can just remove this timer because we have now button. So initially the model displays in none. I will click on to this, show the model, close this, show the model, close this, show the model, right? So this is the toggling of the class using JavaScript event. And when you submit this, what actually happens, we are submitting this and we are toggling the text. You can see here uploading info and saved, right? So this is simple thing I wanted to talk about: how to access the form data, how to access the DOM APIs, how to toggle the class, how to add an event listener, and how to access the form properties, and how we are using this timer API, set timeout. So there are set timeout, set immediate, set interval, All these are timer events in JavaScript. So this is like our first demo application, a user consent form and a model pop-up design. Hi everyone and welcome back. Welcome to the bootcamp. And in the last videos, we have already covered HTML and the basic JavaScript. And now it's time to work on real world applications. So till now we know we don't know much about the advanced JavaScript and advanced styling and all. What we are going to do, we are going to just use whatever the knowledge we have to build these small tiny applications. So when you know React, it's very easy to work with the forms, work with the state and the props. I mean, you can build things very quickly. But how challenging it is when you just use vanilla JavaScript and DOM. So I know only DOM APIs, I know basic JavaScript, array, string, object, functions. How can I utilize that knowledge to build a simple JavaScript applications? And obviously these are not that simple and easy, because when it comes to dealing with the DOM, it's always a little tricky. I mean, if you compare, if I ask a React developer to do the to-do application, he can easily finish the to-do app. But when I ask the same thing, that you need to build a to-do application just using vanilla JavaScript, using maybe local storage and using DOM, then obviously he needs to know the DOM APIs. And I guarantee that when you start working on these framework, you lost the touch with the vanilla JavaScript, how to access the DOM, how to push, how to create a new element, how to add element to the node, how to access the HTML node properties. All those concepts we are going to cover in the next 4 videos with these 4 applications. This is a tiny shopping cart. What it does is, when you add to the cart, we will be managing that price and the product in the local storage, and then here it will be updating these many items you have purchased. So this gives you the overview, like how the local storage, how the DOM APIs works, and how you can little bit style also the HTML nodes you are building. So these are a little challenging, but we will simplify our challenge and build these 4 tiny applications that will give you the confidence to build the vanilla JavaScript applications using simple DOM APIs. Hi everyone and welcome back. So in this video we are going to build this particular application, and that is we are going to build with vanilla JavaScript, HTML and CSS. So we are not going to use any framework or the library. It's going to be plain HTML, CSS and JavaScript we are going to use. So this is our index.html. There we are going to write our whole HTML, and there we are going to add CSS and JavaScript. So let's get started. The layout is kind of a simple. We just have these inside a tabular format, and this, when you click onto the add, your order should get ready. And then there is a button complete order, which should do nothing for now. Okay, so let's first start adding the HTML for it. So inside body we can have a tiny header for this, and then we will also add a CSS for this same. So inside header we can also have a image tag, and class we can say header image. And if we have any header image, you can add it. Let's say this is a header image, and after that we have a simple div we can add. That div will just talk about what do we have, what are we doing, right? So we can have a header text which we can put on header. So this is header text, this is the div class, and now we can have labels, because I think we have some header which is missing here in this image, but we can have some simple tiny header which talks about this is shopping cart, or if it is about food menu, order your pizza. Similarly, there can be a subheading, that can be the best pizza in the world. right? And you can have some classes edits which we can use for styling, header, heading. Another class we can have header, tagline, or subheading, or whatever, right? So this is a header, heading, and tagline. Now we can have, this is the header closing, still we are in the body. So after header close we can just have a main tag. I mean, this is the main section where we are going to put this card. So inside main we can have a divs and class menu, because we are going to show the menu, and let's say id is also menu. And inside this menu items we'll add all the menu items. Okay, and simply, because these are the IDs which we are going to fill dynamically. This is order menu and this is your order. That's it. Now on the fly we are going to fill this HTML using DOM API. Okay, these are the order items and this is the menu item. And also we can have a simple form. Let's say once you are placing the order, what you will do is you will enter the card details, right? So that we can also have here simple form I'm going to add. So if you see our layout, something look like this: name, card, and CVC, right? So we'll just try to close it and format it a little bit. So this is the form which I copied because I already have this tiny simple form. Card number, this is the name, card number, and CVV, and then the pay button. Okay, so this is simple HTML we have added, and now we will start adding the dynamic behavior using JavaScript. So here you can see we have menu. So how do we, because I don't want to hard code all the menu items here. Menu items I'm going to populate through the JavaScript. Okay, so we can create another file, menu item here. So let's say on top I can create a menu. Okay, so here I can just do const menu array, and this is the fixed menu where I have ingredient names and everything. And because this is an array, right, so it will be starting like this, and there is objects. Okay, first menu item, then second menu item, then third menu item. This is how we design a JavaScript object. Now you can have some name, right? Name, let's say pizza, ingredients and all, right? So I'm just going to put the sample JSON I have. So this is a JavaScript object, right? This is my simple menu items. You can have already data coming from maybe API, but I have mock JSON, right? What it contains is ID 012, name is pizza, ingredients, price, and emoji. Okay, this is just talking about what is it all about. You can put some images also. I'm just using emoji here. And this data is important, right? So let's keep it here. Can I collapse this? No. So this is the menu items, menu array, and based on this menu array I will iterate and I will try to generate. Okay, so now let's create a let order. Order is empty right now because nothing is in the order object. It's an array empty. And we can also get some document.get element by ID because we have form. Form initially we are not displaying, but when you are doing a complete order and doing the payment, then only we will be displaying. Okay, and in the document, okay, document.add event listener, click. So what we are doing is, let's say we are going to create a buttons here. These are the buttons, right? So instead of this we can just have an add button and we should be able to add them. So let's first let's create the layout. Okay, so first of all we need to render the menu. That's important, right? So what we will do is we will just create a function get or just simple render function. Okay, this render function will call on the load, so because we need to show the menu items. And what this render function will do is, because we already know this is the feed HTML empty, and we already know what to iterate because these are the menu items array. So we can just loop onto this menu item array dot for each. For each is the function, and here you can access each and every item. And currently we don't know the arrow function and all, so I will be just using a old way of doing it, using callback function with the function keyword, and feed HTML plus equals to, here we are trying to build the HTML for each and every menu item. So here let's say if I try to add h1, right, and then I render this, and what actually menu item array should do is, it is actually going to return me the feed HTML. Then I will do, once it is done, document dot get element by id. We have menu, right, because menu is currently shown empty, and we are trying to populate the menu items dynamically in our HTML, equal to feed HTML. You can see, so instead of this hello, what we can do is we can generate some kind of a menu items, right, and then we will style it in the better way. So that we are doing here, we can put a div, and inside div we can have a class menu item parent, and because these everything is inside a backticks, you can write a HTML freely. So division class, here we are showing item emoji, and we can use dollar symbol to display the dynamic data item dot emoji, because there is a 3 property item emoji, name and ingredient, right, and then we can just show name, ingredient and price in the second div, right, and then there is a button we need to show, and here you can see there is a, I would create a simple button instead of this. Button add, and here we can just simply say add item, and you can see now it is being shown add item, because we are able to iterate to that array. And add item is a button. We can customize this button to have a nice look and feel. When you click onto this button, we need to know that which item you are adding. For that we are creating this custom attribute data item, data price. Our data price is equal to item.id. I think we also need to know which button, which item you are adding to the cart. Okay, so what we can do is, we can also add another attribute data item id, data item id equal to item.id, and this is data price, this should be price. Okay, now it's all about styling this a little bit better, but we are able to get the initial render view. Right now what we will do is, once this is done, first of all hide the card details, because that will come when you complete the order. Now complete the order, so there is should be a button. So when you click on to these items, so add item class button, you can have ID also. Now we need to add a event listener onto these buttons, right? So here button. Okay, because these tags should be on the button so that we will know, okay, which item you have clicked on. So here document.get element by id form. Here instead of same we can also have a button, and this is what is the id here? Document id add button. Okay, add item button. So what we will do is we will add a listener to this. Whenever you are going to add item button dot add event listener, add item button dot add event listener. What we are doing, we are looking for click event. So whenever you do click onto the add item, we should execute this, and inside the function you will get event object, and here you will just check if event dot target dot data set. So all these properties, because when you click onto this button, this becomes the event object, and in the data set property all the data property like item id and data price, data id, this is the better, data id and data price, these will become the properties of this data set, event dot target dot data set dot price. So instead of this I will just check, okay, do you have an id, dataset.id, because we are going to add this item to the item to the our cart. So handle add, we can have another method, handle add item, and this is the id. I can try to play with this alert. Are we getting this id? Event.target.dataset.id, because from this only we will know. Cannot read property of null. Add item button. Let me see, because okay, yeah, this add button is initially not available, right? This add button will be available, so we can just say if add button is there, but then how we would be, so the problem is this add item button is initially not there because it will become available only once you render this particular section. So it is not available on load. So what is the other option? We can attach the event listener on the document. Okay, so we don't need to document dot add event listener. On document object we can add the whole document, and then we will just check, okay, document dot add event listener and event dot target dot data set dot id. If it is there, then only we will think, okay, that you are clicking on to this add item. Reload this, add item. Yes, we are getting this, right? Item 0 1 2 3. So here I have added a add event listener to the whole document. So when you click on to this, every time it will call this function, and then we are checking, do you have a dataset id? I mean, dataset id is becoming because we put a data id. So all these property which are prefixed with the data dash will become part of the data set. Even you can also check the data price here, e.target dot data dot price. I mean, before this framework we used to do things like this. Price event dot target dot, okay, it's a data set. I'm doing some typo, and here you can see 0, and okay, alert works only with 1. Either you concat these, yes, id and the price both are concatenated. Okay, so we are getting both the things, and this is what we want. When you are adding this, you should be able to, and when you remove it, there should be a remove button also, that there also we will just do the same thing. If there is a data remove property, dataset dot remove, then we will should be able to remove id, because data remove, there we are going to add id onto this data remove property. Handle remove item. Okay, handle add item. This is handle add item and remove item. So what will happen when you add the item? So that we need to define a function for it. Function handle add item, and then similarly handle remove item. And here you are getting the item ID, and you already know this array, and you know which item is getting added based on this ID 1, 2, 3. So here you first of all you get the item, which item is getting added or removed. So how can I do that? Use JavaScript skill, right? So we already know we can just do a find or a filter. We can just do simple find. Okay, const item equal to menu array dot find. Find will give you the object which you are looking for. So here we are looking for item dot id should be equal to the id which we are getting. So you got the item, and then you will have an order. Order array is an empty right now. You can just do order dot push, and you got you just push the item. Okay, sometimes if you want to avoid the duplicates, that's fine. Otherwise you just push it, and then get order HTML, because we need to render the HTML for the order also, or render order HTML. So that is just another function render order HTML, and we already know where is the order are added inside this orders array, right? You can do console.log order. I'm going slow because this is all basic JavaScript and HTML knowledge we are using, which we already have. So here we need to display the cart table. Okay, these are the item, these are the price which we have. So here we will just create some variable, let total price, which we need to show on the cart, total price initialized with 0, and then let order HTML is initialized with empty quotes, and here get order HTML. So we got the orders in this order because this is already a global object. We can just iterate onto this. I'm just thinking if this is the right way. So let's iterate on to the array. So here we got outer HTML. Here we can just do order dot for each, and because there are multiple items into this, we can just do item or function item, each and every item, and this is a callback function, and here we are going to build the order HTML plus equal, and inside these backticks we can add our HTML, same as we have done for displaying the list of food menu items. Ordered item. So ordered item is the class we are adding, and then inside this we can add all the menu items. Okay, what is the item name, price, item ID, all these information we can add. Okay, div opening, div closing, and then we are closing the div. So just a plain HTML, so I pasted it here. This is like displaying the price and all, item price, dollar prefixed, item ID. Now data remove. For data remove is a custom property we are adding, right, to this button, so that you can also remove, and there where we are sending the item ID, we are telling you that this is the item ID which I wanted to remove, and this is the item name button, and then this. So, and then outer HTML we need to render somewhere. So after this for each finishes, I can just try to see document.get element by ID, and there is an order ID, and I can just patch the inner HTML there. So if I try to play with this, okay, there is some error, reference error, ID is not defined. That you will try to see. where it is trying to item.id. I.id. Ordered HTML, console.log. We'll try to see. And then once all these items have added, we also need to add a button that I have completed the order, right? So at the bottom, we can just add, once this is finished, just order HTML, just concat the last final button in bottom, which is total price, and total price we can calculate using, because total price we need to calculate, so that also we can calculate using order.forEach. I mean, there is many other ways for each, and this is the function. Here we are getting item, and here I can have a total price equal to item dot price. So I get the value of total price. I need to see what is this error. ID is not defined. Okay, we need to debug. Where is this pointing to? Item.id. Okay, this is okay. Maybe I just use the arrow function here. Not arrow function, just a callback function. Is there any way? Let me just check. Yes, the problem is here, right? We are passing the ID, but there is nothing like ID. We need to pass the whole property. And I don't like this alert coming every time. Just remove this for now. I is not defined. We know where is the I. I is here. It should be item.id equal to this. Looks like now it should be sorted. Here we can say food item that we are adding to this array, and then we are rendering this. Either you can just pass this food item array, order.push. I'm passing order.push. Okay. Undefined reading price. Okay, item dot price. What is this? Okay, let's see. Order dot push. Order was a global, and here console.log order. Are we getting undefined? When you render the outer HTML, render order HTML when we are passing order object. Debugging is a little hard here on this console. I will just try to inspect it here. Maybe I will get something. No, looks like not possible. Okay, the issue here is item.id order.push. So I pushed a new item inside this order. What is this order? Let's say if I'm not passing it here, and we already know this order is a global object, so you do have an access to the order. Inside this, can I do alert? Order is an array. You do have access, and now order.length, order should have become 1. And then if you are passing it here, the order object, Alert and console is the only way to debug this. Here I will say alert order. Why? Because this is alert is order is a let, right? So let's convert this into var. So we would have access it globally. I will talk about this thing. Price. Okay, when you are adding the order food items, what does it contain? It should give you the object, and that same object we are doing push here. Okay, the problem is here, right? Menu item array dot find is giving you undefined. So we got the ID to which we are clicking on. So menu array dot find for each and every item. I'm comparing item dot ID. Item dot ID triple equals to the ID we got. What's the problem? Why it is coming undefined? Menu array handle add menu item console.log. Okay, so now I got the bug, right? And what is the bug? Bug is this culprit is triple equals, right? So this ID is coming as a number, but when you are trying to do item.id, so if you see the item.id is a number, but this ID which we are passing, handle add item, this ID is coming as a string. Okay, and we did the mistake here. So what is problem? If you try to see this, we are getting undefined. Why? Because we are comparing 0 with a 0, and I was surprised. Okay, this can be the issue, right? So for now, either what we can do is this ID is we can just convert that into a number. So now this item.id is already a number, and this will also match. So we'll get the food item and everything. And you can see this, we got the whole object. Yes, but beware that this can be the issue with you also sometimes when you're trying to find and get frustrated what's happening. So we push it, and then we can render the outer order HTML. Okay, and you can see here something is coming up, right? This is the DOM node which we are adding when you click on to the add items. Okay, I'm adding third and then second item, third item. So you can see this is the total price 38, and these are the 3 items which you have added in the item. Then you can also add a remove button, and then you can write a function remove item from the cart. Now everything is sorted. It was all about comparing the string with the number. Obviously that will be false, so you need to convert the ID, because this is coming from the DOM node and it will always be a string, this event.target.dataset ID. Then we can also have another method which is to remove the item from the DOM node. So what we are doing here for that is we are just doing a filter, and we will render it. So function handle remove item, just copy this, handle remove item, and this is giving us the item ID which we are looking for. So I will just use the number again. So this is the item. So what we can do for now is we already have the orders, right? Orders array. We can do a filter. Okay, give me only those orders which have the ID not equal to this ID. Currently I'm allowing you to add items only once. Okay, maybe in another advanced example we will allow you to add the items more than once. So order.filter item.id should not be equal to this. Give me all these remaining orders, right? These are the remaining orders I got, and I will just use these remaining orders to render this. And also I will use the same I will pass the order here, so we can reuse this. So in this we are going to pass the property to iterate. So this is the order object. In the same order we are iterating and calculating the content. And here when you remove it, what you are doing is you are removing the ID. So I got the filtered food menu items. Let's say what filter does, it will just give you all the food menu items except matching this criteria, right? Where item.id not equal to this, and then you just render that. It will automatically calculate the price accordingly. So first of all, let me remove this alert statement everywhere. So I have added the item, 3 items I have added, and there is a remove button. I mean, it's not completely working as expected. What is happening, we will come to know. And then when you do the complete order, we will ask you to submit the payment information, but that is fine. So let's try to see this. I will reload this. When you add, let's find that this is how we have added the item to the order object, and we are able to display the order items. Okay, and this is outer HTML, and this is our order. Because we are using var, let's keep it as a let. Yeah, this is fine, I guess. I added 2 items, and then I'm removing. I cannot remove more than once. I mean, if the item is gone, we need to just remove the item from the array. Okay, so I did a small fix here. When you are adding item, I will not allow duplicates, and how I'm doing it, handle add item. Here I will check, okay, if this item already exists in the cart. It means inside the order array, if I already have this ID, don't do anything. Otherwise, just push this array. And there is one common mistake I was doing unknowingly. Why? Just because I wanted to show you about the scope of the variable, that if you have declared a variable here, this variable is accessible throughout any function in this whole code. And if you try to create a local copy and do the changes in that local copy, it will create a problem. Let's say this order is a global copy. When you are adding item, you change the order, right? You add the items and this order is getting created, right? But when you remove, how you are removing, we have to remove this from the order, and once the removed, assign the remaining part, because now this is the remaining order you have left. So use this order object, and you don't need to pass this order in the function because order is global, and when you do a render order HTML, you already know the value of order because that is global. So now it will work as expected. You can add these 3 items. I can remove one by one, remove, and remove, and total price is 0 because now we have a common global object order. You are just playing with this, and when you are removing the item, you have to reassign the order with the remaining values. Okay, handle remove item. Okay, I did a filtration. I will reassign the order with this new value. So the order is left with the remaining items after I remove the element and then render out HTML. Because I have changed the order object, it will take care of rendering the HTML. So it's all about playing with the JavaScript, and now I can add a little bit of styling also to style it a little bit better. So to have a nice look and font style for the whole body, and we already have these classes. So we already have created this HTML in the last video. I added this image which I got from web, header image, and now we can also style header text. So we are just trying to beautify whatever we have built. Header image, and then we have, I think, header text. So these are all classes we have. So I will just do a margin top negative so we can get some. So there are different ways of styling. Either you can do a pixel, relative amps and amps. Okay, I will just do a pixel. 30. Okay, let's say 50 pixel is also width. Height, let's say put 100 pixel, and this margin is auto. So this whole section should have a margin auto. We can create a container because we wanted to centralize everything. So we can do one thing is margin auto. Okay, so we have header text, which is margin top. We can also add some color. So in this video, we are just styling this burger shop, which we have created. Margin left. So what I was looking for, let's say, to not centralize it right now, keep it left, so that we can have this, and this is a negative. So let's say if I do 80, now it is centralized, right? Otherwise you can have a absolute position for the image, and then you can just put another content on top of it. This is just another way of doing overlay, giving a negative margin. So header images and header text. So margin inline auto, let's use this little later. So here we have now header heading and header tagline. These are the two properties we have. Header heading, and let's increase the height of this to 200 pixel. And I guess we need to increase this negative padding to 100. Now this looks good. I mean, we are just playing how this can be done. And then there is a main section, right? So main section is there, which is a div. So we can just do a margin top. Let's say 50 pixel. And after that we have menus, because these are the menu items which we are going to customize. Menu item parent and all, right? So menu item, that we can decide from here, because this is the menu and this was generating this dynamic HTML. Item name parent, these are the ordered items which we were adding. This was the outer HTML and this was the HTML content. So we are customizing these classes: menu item parent, item emoji, item heading, item description, price, parent and all. Okay, these are the classes we are going to customize in CSS. So menu item parent. So here, I mean, currently we haven't talked about display flags, layout and all, but either we can create a display table. Max width is, let's say, 500 pixel, and flex direction is row. So I'm just trying to arrange them in just like a horizontal column. Okay, and then item. So we have item heading, item description, pricing, and all these classes, tiny classes, which I can add the styles for them. So just to item emoji, item margin left 50. So we can have all these emojis. Emojis are like little bit highlighted because we have put a height and width. Display flags, align item center. So when you add, we can see this shopping cart, added menu items are being displayed here. Okay, we can customize these buttons a little bit, because we have this button plus parent. So I'll just try to add this. Okay, now it looks little better. I mean, I just added this button so that we can have it. Otherwise I can just remove this button also. So here we are in the JS, we added this button. Okay, I can just add, because we already have this plus. If I remove this button, I think we should still get this circle. And I was trying to have some kind of a plus icon here so that we can do a add and remove. And add button, we can just add this ID to here, and I can remove this button node. So now this should also work in the same way. There is ID added, item ID. Why this click is not doing anything? ID is because I added this button, add button ID here, which is doing the click action. Document add event listener, event.target dataset ID. We have this dataset ID here on this button also. Okay, these we need to copy properly. Yeah, that was the problem. It doesn't have the same property. Now I can get rid of this button, let's say. Yeah, I mean, you can have custom buttons to add the item to the cart. Okay, now we need to customize how we show the orders, right? Order, we can have some simple divider between the orders. So this order is a maximum width. You can see this is the how we are showing the order. We need to increase the, we need to show them in the horizontal tabular format. So let's see the HTML, what we have here. This is the order display in the JS. These are the ordered item, right? So how we are showing the ordered item in the display flags, item name, item price. Okay, ordered item display flags and total price text. So here how we can customize. I mean, I'm just not putting too much stress on the CSS right now because I haven't covered that. So I'm just filling up the gaps here. Ordered item margin of 15, display flags, content space between. So this is how we have generated this ordered item. So if I do a display flags, they are coming, but I wanted to show them in the horizontal row. So here let's not put much attention to the CSS because CSS we are going to cover in a separate section. I just copied the styles which we have right now. Like this would be a display flags, and this is how it is removing the items and adding them. And I just style this complete order button. Okay, we will see more about CSS when we start learning CSS from the basics. But this was just about how we create a simple, how we create a DOM nodes and how we play with the simple application. Okay. Hi everyone and welcome back. So in this video we are going to build a tiny cart app. I mean, in the last video we created some kind of a food delivery app just to showcase the HTML and JavaScript, not styling. I'm not beautifying my apps now because CSS we haven't covered, so I'm not talking about anything on that. It's all about how we deal with the JavaScript, DOM APIs and basic JavaScript skills, object array, functions, loops and all. So here also we are going to create a simple file. So here we are going to create let's say cart.js. Okay, I should rename this. Is it allowed? Cart.js, where we are going to write the logic, and this time we are going to do it a little bit differently. We are going to use a local storage for storing the data. So let's say you have a cart. How we create an object? Let cart, this is the cart object, and inside this cart we will be using local storage to store the data, like local storage dot get item. Do we have anything in the cart? So when you reload the whole app, you will still see the items in the cart. If we have this, then the important part with the local storage is whenever you get the data from local storage, and if it is a string JSON data, then you have to stringify it. You have to parse it. And we have a JSON.parse utility. It's like this, JSON.parse, to get the JSON object back from the stringified JSON. So we just do JSON.parse local storage.get item. So we got the cart object, and we are just parsing it. And whenever you set the item in JSON in the local storage, what you do is local storage.set item and JSON.stringify the whole object. And here what I'm going to do, because I need to show these cart menu items in the table. So this is how you will get the cart object. And what the cart object look like, this is the cart object, and inside that you have the items inside that. So let's create let's play with the HTML a little bit, how our table should look like. So here let tbody, let's say we have some HTML table, document.get element by id. So this is how we will access this, and then we can just run a loop, let id in cart. Now this is the important part, because this is a stringified JSON object. So cart object would be look like this, and here it will contain a key. Okay, it can contain a key something like this. Then this is id2, and how we iterate the object, it's your choice. You can have this as an array also, where you can actually have all the items as an object. If this is an array, then your cart items would be something like this, 1 2. Here I have, let's say this is an object. So how to iterate an object with the keys? Using for in loop, and I will get the individual item using cart id. So this object is somewhat look like this. Inside this object I have the id of the cart is 1, and then this is the whole properties of this item, like name of the product and all the other details. So this is how it is constructed. So this is how we will access it. And then let tr, because we need to create a table dynamically and set this data in the body, document.create element, create element tr, and how we can do this, because this is a row, we need to create a 3td in this row. So I think you already know, right? Finally what we will do is inside tbody dot append child, and we will append row, and here we will create a 3td element, like a product title, product price, title td and price. And I will directly jump to the implementation, because it's all about how we store and get the data from the local storage. So it's a title td, price td, and quantity. I have these 3 elements, and I will start setting the data inside these. Title td dot text content equal to item dot title. We know that there is some kind of this kind of an attribute there, and then inside tr dot append child, because we know that there are columns will be added inside a row, and then row will be added inside a table body. And here we have title td. So similarly we will append the second column with all these properties. So it's a price td, you will add the price, and price td append child. This is price td, and this is a quantity column dot text content. This is ty, and finally append this to the row, right? Append the row to the t body. So let's say you have something inside a local storage, but how you will get the local storage? You have to add those items from the HTML. So here comes our HTML. So inside HTML, first we have this t body, we have this tiny table in the bottom. So this is how we create HTML table, right? And this is the table body, right? This we are going to populate dynamically from the local storage. Okay, let's say in the local storage you have some JSON object that we are already parsing in the cart.js. So let's first add this index.js and cart.js, both the files. Now inside our the main index HTML, here we also need to show the items on the UI which you are going to add to the cart, I mean the list of products. So that we can do here using div. We can create a plain div class product, and inside this div you can have multiple products. And like let's say if there are 4 products, so I will just try to, these are the products, and then there is a individual product, division class product. And here these are the data attributes again we are using. These are really very important. Here we are setting data ID, data price, data title, okay, and add to cart. So similarly, let's say we have 5 product or 4 product, you just need to have these unique values. Product 2, different price, ID is 2, price is this, product 2, product 3, 3000, ID is 3. So now we have all unique product, and we are displaying it something like this. We can customize the display. Right now when you click on to this add to cart, we need to add an event listener, so that when you click on to this, we should be able to create a local storage object and set that in the local storage, I mean the cart object, and put that in the local storage, and also render it. So inside our app.js, so what we are going to do is, here inside index.js we are going to play with the whole. So first of all, how many product we have? We'll initialize with everything 0. Sum, we don't know how much you need to pay, 0. And let cart object we are going to construct when you start adding the items to the button. If local storage dot get item, here we are going to store everything inside a local storage, even the count also. If we got the count, then we are going to get the count from local storage back. Local storage dot get item, and this is the simple variable, so we don't need to do a JSON parse and all. It's not a JSON object, but it will be a string, so we need to convert this into number, right? Similarly, these are the global variables which we are storing inside a cart. Local storage dot get item, sum, and sum is also we need to parse it, and cart object we need to stringify, and I mean cart object we need to parse, json.parse local storage.get item cart. So this is how we will initialize the application. If something is already there in the cart, we will set them with the count, sum, and cart object, right? Here we are declaring, and here we are assigning those values using if. We are checking if it is there, then just assign it. Then update cart, what this function will do, if you see, update cart will, because we got the cart object, now update cart will see what is there, and it will try to call the update cart. So update cart is something, a simple function which is going to just put some values on the document.get element by id. There may be some on the id, some on the html dot text content that will show you, okay, this much you have to pay. And because let's say you build an application and you are reloading it multiple times, then you have to reinitialize everything from the local storage. So this is some count, how many product you have bought. We don't need to set, but let's say local storage dot set item, that also we can do. Sum with the value of sum, count with the value of count. So on top we need to show, okay, user has purchased these many items, and we will show them. And how we are showing them, we can have some IDs on the top. So let's say here we can call this as a header. Right, and here we have a count and sum which we can show. Like when you start adding things, this count and the price will keep increasing. And there is a page also, because we are going to create a cart.html, I mean the new page, or we can show the whole table here in the bottom. Okay, now in app.js, what we are doing, we have these buttons, right? All these buttons with the class product. So we need to add an event listener on those buttons, so that when you click onto those buttons, we should be able to add the item to the cart. So these buttons we have, which we can get using document.get element by document.query selector all. It will give you all the buttons which are there. There is a product class, and after that there is a button. So let's try to see. There is a product class, and inside that there is a button node, right? So it is talking about all these div nodes. Button, 3 buttons should be there. So we will get all the buttons here, because it will be an array. So we can run a loop. We can run a simple for loop. Let I is 0, I is less than buttons dot length I plus plus, and then let button equal to, so get the individual button and add a event listener to that. So button dot add event listener, we need to define a function for it. Okay, when you click on to that, I'm going to add item. This is the function I'm going to call. So this add item I'm going to define here, and this will get called and whenever you are going to add item. Let's see this. Okay, this is working. Now what we are going to do, we are going to get the price title ID using dataset properties. Here if you try to see, we can also access the event object here, and if you try to see event dot target dot data set, what it contains, it's a object map, right? I can just do console.log, that's more better. It will give you the whole map. Event dot target dot data set. I will go to console here. You can see this is the data set, ID, price and title. So we can access all of these, and I can get them inside a variable. Easy. I have these 3 variables. I got the title, price and ID. Now I need to check if this item already added in the cart. If yes, increase the quantity. If item is not in the cart, then don't increase the quantity, just add this item. So I will just check, do we have ID in the cart object? So we have ID is here, ID is in the cart, then cart of this ID dot quantity equal to, I mean either you can do a plus plus or you just increase the quantity by 1. Else if this is not there, what we need to do is we need to assign this, right? We need to create a cart item which is an object with, okay, I have this title, price and quantity, because this is the first time you are adding the item. Sorry for this typo. Okay, this is cart item which you are adding. I cannot format the content here, cart item. And then once this is there, what you can do is cart, you already have the ID, assign this whole object to this ID, cart item. That's it. So this is way you have increased the item. I mean, you just added the item in the cart object. Now you just need to put this item into the local storage. Here you can do, once you are doing it, I mean, you are increasing, you are adding the item to the cart. So you can just increase the count plus plus. This is the increment operator. Sum equal to, you can also do something like this, sum equal to sum plus price, or sum equal to sum plus price. And local storage dot set item, because there is a cart object we need to update. And while setting the JSON object into a local storage, you need to stringify it. So this is the cart is JSON object, you set it and then you update the cart. Update cart, what it will do is, update cart we have defined here. It will try to just put the sum and count in the local storage. The cart object we already put in the local storage, right? So what I'm thinking is we can have another page which is just loading this cart.js, so that we can show what all items are in the that file. So we can have a cart.html, and I will just try to put this inside cart.html. We just need only the table, nothing else. Okay, and we have cart.js. So if I try to go to the cart.html, it's empty, right? Now I'll start adding the items. Okay, is it added? Not added. Let's see. So we are adding the item from the cart here. So index.js, when you click onto this product, what is happening is, okay, ID in the cart, this is the cart object we have. Cart object I got from local storage, if it is already there, otherwise it was empty. And then I started, and there is nothing inside a cart. If ID in the cart, else cart item, cart of ID. ID is dataset ID. Let's see, cart has already been declared. Where it is happening. Yes, we are not using cart again. We are just using the value update cart, stringify cart. Okay, let's remove this thing. Cart.js we are not using here. We are just using index.js. Okay. Okay, I can see that now. Item 1 price. Item 2 price. Okay. Item 3 price 7. And if I go to the cart.html, will it show something? If we can access, yes, it is showing this, right? So this is just another page which is using this cart.js, which is doing nothing, but it is reading the, so this example also shows how to store the data in the local storage when it is a JSON object. Otherwise, if it is a plain simple number, boolean number or string, you can just set them directly using local storage.set item get item. But when it is a JSON object, while getting you need to parse this, and while setting you can stringify it. So here we are setting it also, in the bottom. So we got the cart object. I will just set it. So that's the reason, because I'm not showing the cart on the same page. Otherwise I need to call the same function again. I can do that. Let's say if I wanted to display this thing on the same page, we need to move the whole code to there. Okay, we can also do this thing. Then we need to put this thing inside a function and we need to render it. That is easy, I guess. So let's say if I want to do the same thing in this page only, I need to put the HTML here and index.js function render cart, and it is doing is tbody getting the ID and then cart object. That's fine. Inside this cart HTML, I will copy this table here in the bottom, put it in the index.html. It is already there. So we'll go here. Now, just like update cart, we can also call this render cart method. So if there is anything inside the local storage, yes, it is coming up, right? Now if you add, now always you need to call this render cart method. So like update cart, then you also need to call the render cart. Yes, it is showing the items. That is correct. Showing some wrong information, looks like. Yeah, something is wrong, but we'll try to figure it out. So render cart. Okay, it is always try to add, because what is happening, if this HTML node is already there, it is keeps adding these rows every time. So how to avoid this? That's also important thing. Do we already have a, so we need to build this thing only once, then it's all about rendering. We don't need to create element every time. What is happening here, if you see, I added, it will add 3 more rows, again 3 more rows. That's not what we want. So up render cart, we need to check if the item is already there. I mean, how do we make sure? So tbody, if tbody already contains the rows, okay, because it's all about append logic. So initially if there are 2 items, it renders the 2 rows. So either we reset the whole body content like this, like tbody dot set inner HTML, tbody dot inner HTML. Let's put this empty before rendering. Let's see this if it happens. Okay, that works, right? So we are just increasing the quantity now. You can see, because we need to reinitialize the whole table. So we reset the table before building it, and then I got the new cart object with the 5 more arrays, 5 more items. Let's add them. Let's re-render them and clean that tbody before doing it. So it's a very clean approach. So it's like a simple cart I was trying to show. We can have a small CSS sections which will just display the products in a little bit nicer way. So I can just add a display property for the products. Yeah, simple. And I can remove this alert. I hate putting alerts everywhere. Where it is, this is the alert. Reload this, you can see the items also. So now we have 2 places where we are showing this. So this is all about how we deal with the DOM and how this all happening. Okay, so it's another example where we are talking about how we are adding the, so what are the quick outcomes, how to access the local storage, how to set and get. Local storage is something which will always be there. When you even the page reloads, the data will still there, so you will retain that information. And here we are doing the DOM manipulation, like adding the events to the all the buttons together in just a one loop. button.add event listener. Apart from that, we are not doing much here. We are just, when you click onto the ad, we are getting these dataset properties. Another important part is how to get these dataset properties, because in the HTML we have added these properties: data ID, data price, and data title. So when you access event.target.dataset, you will get ID, price, and title. Okay, we will talk about more of such examples where we talking in depth about the core aspects. Here we are not talking about styling, but the basic of JavaScript, how you loop onto an object. This is the object, right? If it is an array, you can just do a for of loop, or you can just do a for loop. It's an object, so how to iterate? Using just a for in loop. So you got the items, and then set the item properties, item.title, price, and quantity to all the columns, and put that column, add that column to the row, and then add that row to the t-body. So here we are using excessively the DOM APIs: document.create element, document.get element by id, document element.append child. Okay, so let's do a couple of more such exercise in the coming videos. Hi everyone, and welcome back. Welcome to my another video, and in this video, which is a part of HTML Bootcamp, we are just going to talk about basic HTML, and we are going to build a simple movie application using HTML, vanilla JavaScript, DOM APIs, and the fetch APIs. So this is what we are going to build: a simple search bar on the top, and then when you search a movie, we should be able to fetch the ratings from the TMDB APIs and show it to you. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to write the code for this, and this is a simple plain HTML we have, right? We have a simple form which has input text field, because here you are going to enter the movie name, and this is the div which we are going to use to display the content. Okay, because what we are going to do, we are going to do a couple of things. Here is fetch the data from this text field. Okay, make API call to TMDB APIs, and then here we are going to do fetch movies and set in HTML node, and for the landing page, render top 10 movies maybe, right? So when you haven't typed anything, we should show their top 10 movies, and when you start typing something, let's say I wanted to search for a particular movie, that movie list should come, and you should be able to render it in this particular div. So here we have a simple form when you try to enter or submit, because this is a simple input text form, right? So we can add a on submit event on this form. So when you submit it, we should make an API call, get the data for the specified movie in the input text field. Okay, so let's get started. How we do it is, first of all, we are going to make sure you have a TMDB APIs account. So this is the TMDB movie database, and if you have API key, you can fetch the some APIs which it provides, using which you can search for a particular movie, and you can search for popular movies, top 10 popular movies, something like that. So if I just talk about movie list get, how I need to do is, these are like REST APIs which are already created by someone. Okay, they have exposed it. So this is what we need to do. I mean, we are going to use JavaScript, so we are going to use fetch and this API, and you need to pass the API key also. So let's talk about that here in the JavaScript, how we are going to fetch first top 10 movies. So I will just try to add the API URL here, because those API URL I already have listed from the documentation, and this is my API key, because these are like free APIs, but we need to have API key to access top 10 movies, top 10 rated movies, top trending movies, and you should be able to search. So these are the three URLs. I mean, this is the image path, default path. This is the API URL which will give me the top 10 popular movies, and this is which we can use for searching. So if you see the whole URL here, you need to pass the query. So if, let's say, if I just pass terminator, right? And if I copy and paste this, what should happen is it should be able to give me the JSON. This is JSON object, which we can just see using JSON parser online what it contains. And you see here, this is the result object, right? The first movie here, these are the information we need to show on the UI: original title, movie, and this is the poster path. Okay, the backdrop path, poster path. This is the first result. Second result, and I think there are around 10 results are there which we can show. And then another is this API, we hit the search query, right? And then there is a first API which is just going to give you the first page of top trending movies. And if I just try to copy and paste it, so if when you do the JavaScript, you should be good at how you get the data. This is, I think, Leo. I mean, I watched this movie. Oh, this is a different one. I thought it's a Bollywood. Yeah, these are some latest movies which are available, right? So what we can do is by default we can just show this, and when you start searching, we will switch the endpoint and we will search the data based on that. So let's say we know only JavaScript. These are the API URLs because there is a client and then there is a server. Client side we are going to write the code, but how we are going to get the data? Either you mock this response. Let's say I can mock this response also using, let's say I create a new folder, mock, and inside mock we can have a new file, movies.json. I don't know, it's not formatting, or we can just const movies, right? And then you have to rename it to JS file. Okay, but we are going to make a actual API call to get the data. So this is our simple JavaScript we are going to write, and this is the console that will help us. So first of all, we will get the main node where we are going to set everything, document.get element by ID. And this is, we have main, and we have form also, so we can just do document.get element by ID. So we have this is the area where we are going to display the movie. This is the form we have, and then we have search field, I guess, input text search field, that also has an ID search. So we are just trying to get by ID. This is the ID search, this is the ID main, and this is the form ID form. We got all the nodes which we are going to play with. And then here const get movies. There are many ways of creating a function, right? In JavaScript, either you can do something like this, or you can just say function get movies. That's also another way. Here we are going to go with this approach. And let's say there are many other ways of doing this fetch. Fetch is a callback based, promise based. How we make an API call, that I have already explained in my previous videos. Like, let's say you wanted to make an API call, then you can use Ajax. Ajax is obviously the legacy way. Now we can just use fetch, and we can use async await, or let's say if we are not using async await, we can use simple promise. So how we are going to get the data is we are going to use fetch and the URL. So the URL we are going to get from here, and it's a promise. So I already talked about it, that how to get the data. So what it is doing is, fetch is a browser API. It is going to return us the promise. So there are many ways of making API call. Either you can write a Ajax, you can use promises, you can use async await. But for now we are just using promises only. Dot then, here you will get the data. I will serialize the data. Okay, it's a response, then response.json. It's again going to return a promise. I mean, if we are not using arrow function, then we have to use these functions. Then again it's a promise. So here we will get the data. Okay, this is the data we have received. And how do I know that I got the data? Console.log, you can just do data. Why it is complaining? Okay, because I'm not using function keyword. I'm writing higher version of JavaScript. So if I try to reload this and get movies, we need to call also, right? Otherwise, how would I know that get movies is being called and it is making this API call? And you can see this. What is happening on this console is it is printing all the movies because I'm doing console.log. So this is the one way of doing it. There are other ways also using. You can use async await. That's really little sweet syntax. I can make this function async function, and then you just don't need to do this const data await fetch URL, and then I can serialize the response. Const data equal to await response.json. 2 lines. It's like same thing, but we will understand how we make API calls using JavaScript, using async await and the promises. For now, let's do it with the promises. So here we got the data. So once you got the data, we need to show it also on some node. So here we can just do show movies and we pass the data which we just received, and then we will play with this. So here this get movies is a call which we are going to make on the landing page. Here we are passing the API URL to show the top 10 trending movies, and when you submit something in the text field and submit the form, then also we need to trigger this method and call the get movies function. So we already got the form. We can add a form.add event listener, and we can add event listener submit. So whenever you submit the form, we are going to access the event object. I mean, everywhere in the latest version of JavaScript we use arrow functions, but for now that's fine. I'm still using the old way of doing it without arrow function, event.prevent default, and then we are going to get the search term. Const search term equal to, we already have the search dot value. Sorry, it's a string. So here we already have a search node. We just do the dot value and we will get the element. So if we got the search term while you submit this, now we know we need to make an API call which is get movies, and just change the API URL which is search API plus search term, right? Because here we also passing the search term. Search API concatenated with the search term. So search API has a query and we are just adding the search term and we are calling the get movies. Once that is done, you can just make the search empty. Search dot value is empty because now we have submitted the form. API call has been triggered. We can make the form empty. So if I just do the console here, how can I clear the console? Not sure. So if I just pass the terminator and enter, you can see I actually const search term. Show movies are not defined. Okay, I understood there is a function I'm calling. Let's comment this out. So here show movies. Okay, I need to reload this. Yes, some API call is being triggered, right? And now I will ask for the name and you can see Leo page 1 results empty. Terminator, I'm searching. Why it is giving me the empty search? Let's see. Okay, this is why, because I added this query. The URL should be like this, and now we can add the name. Okay, now I will search again. Yes, I got the data, right? So you see the big response which we are getting. So that we need to visualize in our own way, right? So what we will do for that visualizing is, because this method will get called whenever you search or whenever you show the landing page. So here we are going to use show movies. This is a function that is going to render the HTML for us. Function show movies. We got the data, and here we are going to iterate on to this array which we have. So we will get the movies. So it's all vanilla JavaScript we are writing. So first of all, set the main inner HTML to empty, because user might have entered a different text. So we need to search again, and before that reset the inner HTML of that. And then we got the movies dot for each. We can use for each function because this is an array we have already seen. So inside that we can simply say dot for each, and we are getting the data of a movie. This is the first movie we got. It's like a loop. And here we are going to get the data from the individual movie object. Okay, so we already have a JSON object, right? And what that JSON object contains, all the properties like the poster path, title, all these properties we are getting from the movie object. And now we know how to access the movie element. Const, because we are inside a loop, movie element equal to document dot create, because here we need to create a node. Document dot create element. Where it is, the create element, and we are creating a div. Dynamically we are creating a div node, and this movie element dot class list. This is how you can also add dynamically the class dot add movie. Okay, this is done. Now movie element, we have created this movie element. Movie element dot class list, we added a dynamically class, and then dot inner HTML. This is important. Here we are going to put what is the content of this div node. So we can have an image, because we need to show the poster image src. And how we show the dynamic, using dollar. We have image path and then the poster path. So this is how we get the image. You can get a alt tag. We can just put a title there. So this is our image, first, and then we can have some more information about the div class, movie info, which talks about more information about movies, like okay, the title, description, and ratings and all. So that we can add. So I will just add the whole template. So it's like a plain and simple template we have. Here we have a title, and then we are going to get the vote average, because we have the rating, right? So we can also decide a class dynamically based on the rating. Okay, highly rated, less rating, and this is the overview. So this is the HTML node we are generating. And if I try to run this, so this is the movie element we are creating, and then once it is done, we need to append it also to the main node. So we have this main node, and we will append it to there inside the loop itself. So movie element dot inner HTML main dot add element, append child, sorry, and we will append this movie element. That's it. So movie dot for each is not defined, it's movies. Okay, we are not passing it here. Show movies data, where it is talking about. So let me reload this. Movies dot for each is not a function, so it's not considering that as an array. Response dot data, that's an API call. So we need to see what we are getting through this. URL, maybe something else which is not an array but an object. Okay, results we need to do, because this is an object. Inside that we need to get inside the result. So here we will do it something like this: data dot results. Get class by rate is not defined, that's I know. So we can also define this method. That's nothing but it's going to return the class. So here is function get class by rate, because you might be highly rated or very low rating, and based on that we can just decide which class we need to put. So there is just a if else block. If vote is greater than 8, it's a green. If vote is greater than 5, then orange, otherwise red. And I saw something is coming up. Okay, I got the data, right? So it's not a magic. We are actually making API call, and then we are fetching the data. Now I can just do a simple search. Let me hide this. So you do know what we are doing. We are just submitting the form, and we are calling get movies. Let's say if I pass Terminator. Okay, and it is here, Terminator, right? All the movies for Terminator are available here, and we are making a real API call to the TMDB APIs to get the data. So we got the data. Here we are calling get movies. Get movies is making API call and sending the data to the show movies. Show movies is nothing but iterating on to this array of movies and generating a dynamic HTML and appending that each and every node inside a loop to the main. So main is like a whole container, and then you are keep adding that. If there are 10 movies, 10 HTML nodes we are adding. So it's like a very simple plain example I was talking about. Let's try to add some CSS so we can have a nice and clean look. So let's add some styling, and here we have index.css. So first I wanted to set a body background, and then we are going to customize the header. The header is HTML tag. Here I can set background, anything. This is also fine. Okay, and then display flex, because I want to have the header on top. Justify content, and now you will decide where you want to show this search field on the center, or on the flex end, or flex start. These are like some styling we will understand soon how all these happens. So justify content center, and we can add a padding also to the header, which is 1 relative amps. Okay, this is now looking little better, right? Now we have a search is input text field, and we are going to apply the style on the class. Background color transparent. Border we can add some radius, so 2 pixel solid. I'm just doing it. Border radius let's say 50 pixel. So we got the border radius. Color is what color you will be entering, and font size and padding you can add. Font size maybe 24 pixel, and padding is 8 and 16 pixel, right? So now search looks little nicer, and I like the search. Now we need to customize or make these grids, these divs, right? So we can also add some focus. So whenever you try to add a focus on this, what will happen? So this is a search class, and these are the pseudo classes which you can add. You can see before, after, content, focus. So when you put a focus and you wanted to change some color, then you can do it. I'm running out of color, so I'm just putting it here. So when you focus, right, there is a focus happening because we added a styling for that. And then now we will customize movies, because if you see this node, for each and every movie there is a movie node and movie class getting added, movie and then movie info. And if you see this class list, first we are creating a div node and adding a movie class. So let's customize this movie class, add some CSS properties to the movie class, background color and all sort of things. I will just add them because that's a basic template. Try to make it as a grid. Background color, I'm just putting a fixed width so that I can have a multiple grids together. So there are two different options. What I'm trying to do, I can have a flex container also here. So let's say here, because this is coming only as a one grid. So movie info, first let's fix movie info also. Movie info is stacked on top of each other, so we can just do color, display flex, align item center. So this is align item center, display flex, and we can also add some padding, later spacing. Padding will just give you padding from the border. So color is not good, we can just put color FFF. So this is movie info. And what is this description class is? Movie info, then overview class. So for overview we can add another class. Overview background color is white. This is fine. Padding we can add, because there is no padding added, so that's looking really weird. Now it's looking good, right, with the padding. Without padding, you see, so you are just adding a padding, so it will just add the padding outside within its boundary, right, before the border. And then you can just do, for now let's keep it like this. Okay, now we can add another div on top of this. So this is the main class. Inside main we are adding, we can also add a class, maybe container, and we can just do a display flex on this container so that all the movies can come horizontally. Display flex, flex direction row. Oh, that's not good. Flex direction row, I will just do a column. So this is my flex container. Now I need to see what is going wrong. So inside a container, I added a display flex, and this is flex direction column. Okay, so here we need to play with little bit on the flex. This is the main node, right? We already have a main. So what we are doing here is on this main div we can add a CSS instead of adding a class container, because it's a tag name. So with the tag name we can add a display flex and flex wrap. If I try to do, okay, so flex wrap is just what it will do is it will just check, okay, because individual grid width is 300 and only 2 items can come, so it will put the next item in the bottom. See, that is what happening. Now if I try to search Terminator, and I got my favorite movies popped up, right? So this is how it works. I mean, it's a very old movie, but at that time of 90s it was one of the good movie. Yeah, so this is how we are doing the search. Leo, all the Leo movies are here. So this is a simple movie app which we have built with just a simple JavaScript and the APIs. This is the API key. You can create your own API key by using TMDB account and get the API key and use the same API key here. Okay, so this is a simple movie app, and now in the next video we will build some same kind of apps to get more understanding on vanilla JavaScript, because here we are dealing with the DOM. Generating a content dynamically, making the API call using just promises, accessing the DOM node, making an API calls, and then setting the content and adding the DOM events on the form, right? Writing the functions and all. Hi everyone and welcome back. In this video we are going to build another plain simple search app. Okay, that's what we are going to do. And because here it's all about, we are doing lots of small applications to understand more core depths, core concepts of basic JavaScript using simple array object functions and different array methods, and doing DOM manipulation. So here we are going to do a simple live search, and inside live search we are going to add a simple input text field, and we have some data, mock data, on which we are going to search. Input type text, ID is search, and the name is search. Okay, so this is a simple input text field we have, and these are the results, because we are going to store these results somewhere. So we are just going to create a UL node. In that UL node we will store the data. ID results. Okay, so now let's say what we are going to do. We have some mock data, and the mock data is nothing but something like this. We have an array of users, something like this, right? So this is a simple array, and now we are going to play the search on top of this array. So it's just like array of objects containing name and country. So first const search, and we can access document.get element by ID. So this is what search text field looks like, and then const results, we can do document.get element by ID. This is our results node. So we got both the DOM node, and this is search term, which is empty. And then you will add a event in event listener, search dot, because there is a search node, search dot add event listener, and I'm doing event listener input because we are doing a real-time search. So whenever you type something, we will search. And this is the event object, add a function, and then we got the search term. Search term will be event.target.value. So this is how you can access the input text field. There are many ways. You can give the ID and then you do the dot value, or at the real time you can get it like this, event.target.value, and you can also convert that into lowercase to lower case. Okay, you got the search term, and then here you can do shows list. This is the function you will call. Now what the show list function will do. So here we have a show list, because in this list we are going to search. So because this search, if you see, the search term is already a global. I will try to define this function in the bottom. The search term is already a global term. Let's do a let search term, because it will change. Let search term const means you cannot change that value. So here search term will keep changing, and we will have the updated search term, and then we are calling show list. So what we are doing, first results dot inner HTML, it's empty. We will reset it. We don't know, because we are doing a fresh new search. So reset the earlier one, and then we have data. So data dot filter, we need to filter the data, because we don't want to change the data array. We are just doing a filter, and we are accessing individual item. And filter, map, all have a similar kind of syntax. They takes the callback function. So filter, it will give me each and every item from the data array. So here we are doing filter, and in the filter we are going to check the condition. Because what filter does, if I talk about simple filter const array which contains 1 2 3 4 5 6, and if I do array dot filter, and if I just do function, I'm accessing each and every item, and then here I can write a condition that I should be greater than or equal to 6, then it will give you only an array with having one element 6. Okay, it's like a filter. So here we are going to add a condition item dot country. We have item dot country dot to lowercase, and in the string we can just do includes. Does it include the search term which you have entered? Because that is also in the lowercase. Either this condition or you can search it with the name. So we are using this or operator also. I mean, either you do a return true, that means we want this, otherwise return false. And if it is like this, you can write the whole syntax in one line also, because this is the condition. So because it will return true and false, so you can do something like this: return item dot country dot lowercase, item dot name dot lowercase dot include search term. If any of this is true, then we are going to show that element on the UI. Then what this will do, data dot filter, it will give you the new array. Okay, it is going to give you the new array. It's not changing anything on the data. So your original copy of the master data is still there. Here we can do a for each on to this outcome array. After filtration we are getting this array. So let's say this is the item. I always have an habit of writing arrow function. That's why I always forget to write a function. And here we can create a nodes const li equal to document dot create element. Here I am creating li node, and then you can also do li dot class list dot add. If you want to add is list item, we can use it for something. Li dot inner html, this is the inner html we are going to add. And always do it in the backticks, because it's a multi-line syntax we are adding. So this is li, no, not li, it should be simple I or span tag, because we are going to add everything inside a single line. Here we can say dollar, what is the item name is e dot name and e dot country, and so this is another information. So I'm just showing two information on this live search: e dot name and e dot country. Okay, then we just show the show list. And call this function show list on the landing page. That's also will add something. Now if I reload, nothing will be shown, and if I start searching for something, let me see, I have this console, no errors. So when I try to enter something in this, maybe this function I need to add in the bottom. So I added a input event. Is it even calling this show list function? Show list is this. What is wrong? Show list function will get called. Is this getting called? Okay, and if I type, yes, it is getting called at least. Okay, then what we are doing, data dot filter, this is the data dot filter, and item dot country dot to lowercase. Okay, oh, I got it. So what we did, we forgot to append this li node. I mean, we are generating the li node, but we didn't append it on the result ul node. results dot append child. A grave mistake, and it won't complain because we didn't append it. Okay, so initially it will show all, right? Because when you do the filter, it's not matching with anything, right? So it will give you all the array data dot filter. It's not filtering anything, it is giving you the whole array, and this is showing you something like this. Now let's comment the alert and try to search some name. Oh, it is showing alert. I will reload this, right? So this is how our simple search we have built. A very simple, which is just using vanilla JavaScript, and it is only, I mean, these are the demos only to understand more about how we are writing basic JavaScript. So here what I did, if you see this code, we are first we added the event listener on the input. We are calling this. We got the input term, search term. We are calling this, and what this function is doing is we have the array of objects, loop onto them, do the filter. If user has type anything that is matching, then it will give us only those records with the matching, and then do the for each. For each loop is just only to run a loop without changing anything. So we will run a loop onto the array of objects, create those number of li nodes and append that to the results. So that's a very simple example. That's all we have in this. Let's talk about one more demo example, and then we are done with these small tiny applications. Now let's talk about some more examples, because here we are still working with the DOM, and a couple of more examples how we are doing DOM manipulations, how we are making API calls and all. So we can just do a simple example of guessing the number and checking if whatever you have guessed is the same as the random number which I was using. So here we are using little bit of JavaScript, but not that much, because JavaScript is really very minimal. Here we have simple input type text field where we are going to enter the guess number, and we have this simple button. Okay, when you click onto this button, I'm going to create a random number, and I'm going to compare this random number with the number which you have entered in the input text field. If both are same, you will say, okay, you have won the lottery, right? Because you guess the number right, which this JavaScript math.random is going to generate. So this is the way to generate a math.random number of in between, I think 0 to 100, 1 to 100, and we have input type text field. So we get the input DOM node, we got the submit button, and we got the message. Okay, so we got, I mean, this is simply way all these three different nodes has their ID: guess, input, submit, guess, and the message. So we can just do submit guess dot add event listener, and we have a click event listener attached to it. So whenever you click on to the submit guess, we are going to we are going to generate a random number, and that random number we are going to compare with the value which you have entered. If both are equals, that means you are the winner and you will get the lottery ticket and you are now a billionaire. Okay, so we have to parse int. Parse int is JavaScript method to convert a string into a number. So let's say if a number is inside a single quotes, you can convert it because it's parsable. You cannot convert okay, hello world to a number. It will become not a number, nan. So here we are checking guess equal to random number. If it is number same, then you did it right. We are just celebrating it. If it is, and then we just check the message dot style dot color. We can just change the color. We can just disable the input text field. When you have won the award, right, we can just disable the guess input dot disable dot equal to disabled equal to true. So because this is an input property, button property, so node property. So button dot disabled, button dot some attribute like button dot style dot color, button dot disabled, button dot name, button dot id. These are some attributes you can directly access using button HTML node. And if it is not, if it is less, we will just show the red color and we will just disable it. We will still disable it. I don't think we should disable if the condition is not met, so we will remove that line.